We're in the kitchen of a Chinese restaurant, but our guest of honour won't be sampling the menu tonight. Just through those doors is one of this country's most respected television journalists. And tonight, we're going to pay him a surprise tribute, which is long overdue. And no need to feel guilty about it either, because he's done exactly the same thing to many others himself.
Hello, Mike, you're here.
I got a surprise for you.
What is it?
Johnny O'Keefe, this is your life. I got a surprise for you, because tonight, Bobby Lim, this is your life.
Now, Mike Willesee has been lured here on the pretext of having a quiet family dinner to celebrate becoming an uncle again. So, let's go and do it. Michael Willesee, sorry to interrupt. This is your life. Congratulations, mate. You got me. They got you too. You can thank Don and Gail for this one too. I don't believe it. Well, you've done it to enough people.
Yeah. I'll get you back, you know.
I know you will. I know you will.
Feel guilty?
Yeah, you mean people knocking at the door?
Yeah, you feel called Munro.
I don't know him.
I don't believe it.
Michael, do you mind taking a seat, please? Now, the first person that we'd like to introduce you to is someone that you burdened us all with.
Hey, beautiful day, Willow, God's country. Would not be dead for quids.
The one and only Doug Mulray. Now, before we started researching this, I had no idea, really, that you introduced Doug to television.
Yeah, he wasn't funny before I got hold of him.
No, that isn't the reason. It's just that your show rated so poorly, no one knew I existed.
How did you meet?
Well, Michael was canvassing for comedy talent to save his dwindling ratings on a program known as Willesee 81, as I recall. Now, I don't want to cause you any undue embarrassment. I know it's your night, sweetheart. But the situation is that he wasn't doing all that well. It was a low point in his career. It was on the 7 network. I feel I can say that here at Channel 9. Heavens, I've lived through it. I'd been working on the radio. In fact, on Double J, as it then was. Triple J was just around the corner. And we submitted some radio stuff and went in to see Michael. I just about burst into tears, but maintained dignity. And we negotiated for 30 seconds, and I went out and jumped in the air and yahooed and started the most unsuccessful career Australian television has ever known. And the paranoia, the loathing, and the comfy pop on continence pads I have you to thank for it.
Michael, do you mind? Okay, now to the book. Michael Robert Willesee. You were born on the 29th of June, 1942. The second eldest of 6 children to your parents, Gwendolyn and Donald. Your father works in the public service, but goes on to become a minister in the Whitlam government. Your mum and dad can't be with us tonight, and in fact always shy away from any publicity, but they send this message from the family home in Perth.
Thinking back to those days, watching you over the years and seeing where you are today, all I can say is, it's a bloody miracle. There's a blonde that'd like to talk to you, Mike.
Hello, Michael. Very, very sorry we couldn't be with you tonight. But I want to say you've done us proud. But you're always on the ball, Michael. And we salute you.
Thanks, Ron. I know that would have taken a bit.
Now, as a youngster, you demonstrated incredible resilience. Your family described you as a real little toughie who didn't mind the odd punch-up either. Now, here's a cheerio from one of your childhood sparring partners, younger brother Terry. Now, because he's news reading at Channel 9 in Perth, he recorded this message.
G'day, Mike. Sorry I couldn't be there tonight. I know you're having a great time because I know how much you love surprises. In fact, I can remember going back, I think, to when you were about 18 or 19,
Mum and Dad had gone overseas on a holiday, so you threw a party for about 40 of your mates. But Mum and Dad came home a couple of days early, remember that? Just in time for the party, mate. That was quite a surprise, and I'm sure there are a lot more surprises coming up for you tonight. Sit back, relax and enjoy it, because you deserve it, brother. Bye-bye.
And three siblings who could be with you tonight are Colleen, Don Jr. and Peter. Colleen, you and Michael were in the same class at one stage, weren't you, in school?
That's right.
What was he like?
I have to tell it. Well, it was a bit difficult, actually, Mike, because Mike was not only academically good, but he was painfully good, and I wasn't. And the teacher left the room, he was put in charge, and the idea was that he put the names of the people up on the board who were talking all the time, and my name went up first every time.
He was a dobber.
He was a big dobber. And then he got a double barrel because he used to go home and tell Mum and Dad too.
Hey, Mike Munro. Mike, you mentioned those punch-ups. I've got to tell you about one of them just come to mind. I just thought I'd slip back in, Mike.
Hey,
sorry
Terry.
about this. Sorry, I just thought I'd drop back in.
Please.
Yeah, there was a time... We used to have a lot of punch-ups, as you mentioned, when we were kids, as brothers tend to do, and because he was a bit bigger and older, he used to win most of them, but there was one particular fight, I got a couple of good ones in, so I took off after that, headed for the back door, and headed out through the back flywire door and slammed it shut and locked it, and then started giving Mike a barrel full of cheek who was standing on the other side of the flywire. But all of a sudden, this fist came straight through the flywire, his fist on the point of my chin, and sat me on me bum. Now, Mike, I think this is your life, and this is a very good time for you to make a public apology for that.
Yeah, I apologise. I was aiming for your nose.
Thanks, Terry. Bye, Peter. Colleen, John, thank you very much. Please. And after the break, we'll continue with the life of the man who revolutionised current affairs on Australian television, a man never afraid to confront any issue.
Behind the frills and lace facade of the corseting industry, trouble looms. Dame Fashion, that fickle mistress of shape and form, is thrown off her bra. Dame Fashion has snapped out of it.
Welcome back to This Is Your Life. Tonight we honour Michael Willesee. Michael, you spend your school days in Leederville, Perth, and it's during this time you develop your love of sport. In 1960 you graduated, and like your dad, you joined the public service as an accounts clerk. But that was never really you, was it?
No.
It never was it? You stuck at that for 12 months, and then by accident you fall into journalism. At 20, you successfully apply for a cadetship at the Perth Daily News. When you're 22, you marry Joan Stanbury and become a Canberra bureau chief, the youngest ever fully accredited political correspondent in the nation's capital.
He was also a founding member of the Truth Club.
It's your old mate and newspaper columnist, Alex Mitchell. So, Alex, what's the Truth Club?
Well, it's the early 1960s. The Canberra Press Gallery, Eric Walsh, Paul Doherty, Mike and I would have a regular meeting, and there was a simple rule in the Truth Club. You had one chance to ask one question, and that person had to answer the question absolutely truthfully. And the point was that Mike, in this game, I'd be asking, who's your favourite actress or something. Mike would reach deep into your soul and ask the most, pitiless questions. It was hellish.
Was there any question that you never asked him that you'd like to?
Well, in front of his family and millions of viewers, well, yes, there is, as a matter of fact. Mike, after you interviewed Dr. Germaine Greer 20 years ago, what happened that night?
Yeah, I just can't recall that night.
You've heard it live on television. Mike Willesee in denial.
Thank you. Good to see you, mate.
By age 24, you become Vice President of Canberra's National Press Gallery. A year later, you move to television and join the ABC's This Day Tonight. And straight away, you're given the big assignments. During your career, you've asked questions of every Prime Minister, from Sir Robert Menzies in black and white to Paul Keating in colour.
I was the only Prime Minister who knew Michael before he became a millionaire.
The unmistakable voice of Gough Whitlam. When did you first meet Michael?
He was 11.
11.
It was my first year in Parliament, and I decided I'd better go over and visit Perth. And a contemporary of mine in the Senate took me down to Bunbury with his sons, Michael and Terry. And they were running around kicking a ball, football, one of those Australian rule ones, around the beach. But 20 years later, it was a very different ball game because I was Prime Minister. His father was my Minister for Foreign Affairs, and he was still wanting to kick goals.
In interviews?
Yes, he was a top interviewer. But nothing had changed, still wanting to kick goals, so occasionally I let him.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Back to 1969, and you're 27. You move from This Day Tonight to host the ABC flagship Four Corners. You then set your sights on commercial television. In 1971, you're not even 30, and you present the Nine Network with a concept for a nightly prime-time show that is still running to this day, A Current Affair.
Before I met you, the only thing I really knew about television was how to turn it on and turn it off.
It's your producer and mate with A Current Affair, and for shows after that for another 10 years, Phil Davis. So Michael taught you a fair bit about TV?
He taught me a lot about television, Michael. He's the best television interviewer I've ever seen. He would rather interview a politician than a big star any day, even though the audience often would rather see the big star. Mike would rather get into something he get his teeth into, or the person, perhaps, he get his teeth into.
Phil, thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Mike.
Michael, in 1975, your first marriage ends in divorce, but you remarry the following year to Carol Brent. Meanwhile, your career is going from strength to strength. You win several Logies, and Clio magazine dubs you the thinking woman's sex symbol.
Yes, I read that article in Clio. Mike Willesee, Enigma, a quiet sex symbol or a dull man with thick lips. I read that.
And of course, as anchorman on a top current affairs show, you learn pretty fast that you also need a top team of reporters.
It certainly wasn't glamorous, but at least my scripts got shorter.
The showbiz reporter from Willesee at 7, Jackie Weaver. So, Jackie, what are your memories of those days?
Well, before that, I just want to say about Jermaine Greer. I never believed it. What I wanted to say was that one afternoon I had to do a pre-record of an interview with Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley for the program. And Michael said, "I'll hold the baby." She brought in the most gorgeous little baby. And he said, "I'll hold the baby while you do the interview." So I did the interview with Yvonne, and he's jiggling and bouncing this baby all during the interview behind the camera. And then the interview finished, and they said, "Now for some publicity shots." And Michael said, "Here you are," and gave the baby to me. And this sweet little baby, all over my best interview blouse, did a Technicolor.
Jackie, thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Good to see you. Now, in 1980, you meet someone who touches your heart. And not only your heart, but the hearts of millions of Australians. It's the start of a very special friendship.
You once told me you wanted my job.
did I?
Yeah, you said that you could do it as well as I could.
I probably wouldn't be able to do it as good as he, but I could sure try.
It took more than lollies to make me talk.
From Adelaide, Quentin Kenihan. Quentin, what's this about lollies?
Well, he was doing the documentary, and he spent 3 or 4 weeks in San Francisco with us, and he tried getting an interview with me. And, of course, I was, like, too busy with surgery and interested in the camera crew and everything, and I just didn't want to do one. And eventually, he tried to bribe me, a 7-year-old, with lollies. And I'm thinking, hang on a second, you know, he's a journalist, you know, publicity and all that. I said, hang on, no lollies, I want toys.
So you accepted the bribe?
Of course.
And that'd be your only bribe ever, I guess, would it?
Well, there might have been a few inducements along the way.
Along the way. Okay. Quentin, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, mate. Really good.
After the break, the personal side of Michael Willesee. Welcome back to This Is Your Life. Our special guest is Michael Willesee. With television still dominating your life, it's a wonder you have time for anything else. But ever since those days in Western Australia, you have an enormous love of Aussie rules football. In fact, you like it so much, you bought the team. In 1988, you become part owner of the Sydney Swans.
He would have been a great football player if he didn't have such an eye for the girls.
He would have been a great football player if he wasn't such a great card player.
Two legends of Australian rules football, Ron Barassi and Graham John. I didn't know he was a card sharp.
A lot of people think Mike got his start out of television, but he didn't. He got it out of cards.
Out of cards. And where would the Swans be without this bloke?
Well, it'll be a long story. One day it might be told, but there's no doubt the Swans wouldn't exist now if it wasn't for guys like Mike Willesee.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming
in. Michael, it's 1989 and your second marriage ends. But that same resilience you showed as a kid sees you through. You're no longer hosting a current affair, but you're very much a major player. The demands of a booming business mean plenty of overseas travel. And it was during one trip that you catch up with another international Australian.
I bet you thought you'd seen the last of me for a while.
All the way from LA, the glamorous Carmen Duncan.
I'm not a Jermaine Greer. No, do you remember when you came to New York and I had that photo shoot and I was all dressed up as Bette Davis in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? I mean, looking 110 in the shade. Anyway, we were running very late for a really important 21st birthday at that restaurant. And I said to you, are you game? And he said to me, remember? And you said, am I game? Have a look at you. Are you game? I said, yep. So off we went, and the waiter nearly dropped dead when we walked in the restaurant. Me, Mike and the rat.
Carmen, thank you very much for joining us. Michael, over the years, the array of people you come in contact with is astounding. Heads of state, sporting stars, to the world's biggest celebrities. But there's one unknown person you've never lost touch with.
He's always been there when I've needed him, ever since we were 12.
Your oldest friend from Cadoo in Western Australia, Ken Booth. Now, your friendship goes back 40 years. Can you sum up Michael Willesee?
Well, a few years ago, I got very ill and I had to have open heart surgery. And Mike, when he heard the news, dropped everything and flew across to see me in hospital. He got there when I was still unconscious, but that's what mate's all about.
Ken, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for coming out.
And after the break, a whole new generation of Willesees. Welcome back to This Is Your Life. We're honouring Michael Willesee. And yours, Michael, has been a charmed life. But it's had its fair share of ups and downs, and there's probably one famous television appearance you wish you hadn't made. But nevertheless, the world of journalism is a more just and robust place thanks to you. But all this is the public face of Michael Willesee. The private side remains one of intense loyalty to family and friends. One of those friends is your personal assistant for the past 15 years, Susan Kane, who's with us in the audience tonight. And that family includes your 5 children. So please welcome the next generation of Willesees, Katie, Michael, Lucy, Amy and Joe. Can I just ask you guys what it was like growing up with such a famous dad?
To us, as kids, he never seemed famous to us. He was just Dad. You know, it was other people who did think he was famous. And he wasn't famous for anything important, like tennis or golf or...
But a great dad.
Certainly a great dad, actually. Yeah. Best I've got.
Michael Willesee, this is your life.
While in Sydney, our guests choose to stay at the Sheraton on the Park.